I arrived at my son's house with a toolbox to fix the porch light. Again. I'd driven over in my old Ford pickup, the one with the cracked windshield and the radio that only plays AM stations. The truck's been with me longer than my son's been alive, and it runs better than most of the relationships in my life. The house sat at the end of Maple Drive, a quiet street in a neighborhood that pretends to be nicer than it is. Small lawns, vinyl siding, American flags on porches, the kind of place where people wave at you in the morning and gossip about you by noon. I'd helped buy this house 3 years ago, put down $20,000 of my own money when the bank wouldn't approve the full loan. My son was 23 then, fresh out of college with a communications degree that qualified him for exactly nothing, and I was the safety net. Again. I parked at the curb and grabbed my toolbox from the truck bed. The porch light had been flickering for 2 weeks. I'd offered to fix it 4 times. Each time my son said he'd get to it himself. He never did. The front door was unlocked. I let myself in, calling out as I stepped into the narrow hallway. "It's me, just here to fix the light." No answer. I could hear voices in the kitchen, the clink of dishes, the hum of the refrigerator. I set the toolbox down and headed that way. My son was leaning against the counter, scrolling through his phone. His wife was at the sink, her back to me, her blonde hair pulled into one of those deliberately messy buns that probably took 20 minutes to arrange. She wore yoga pants and a tank top that cost more than my electric bill. "Hey," I said. My son looked up. "Oh, you're here. Told you I was coming, the light?" He made a face. "Yeah, whatever. Do your thing." His wife turned around, drying her hands on a dish towel. "Hi, Frank," she said, her voice sweet as artificial sweetener. "You didn't have to come all the way over." "It's 10 minutes," I said, "and it's been flickering for 2 weeks." "Right," she smiled, the kind of smile you give to someone you're barely tolerating. "Well, thanks." I turned to head back to the hallway, but my son's voice stopped me. "Dad, seriously, you couldn't have changed before coming over?" I looked down at my clothes. Work pants, a flannel shirt with a small oil stain near the pocket, steel-toed boots. "I came straight from work," I said. "Yeah, I can tell." He exchanged a glance with his wife. "You smell like a garage." "I work in a garage," I said evenly. "Maintenance," he corrected, like it mattered. "At the tech campus." "Same thing." "Not really," he set his phone down. "You know, if you took a little more pride in your appearance, people might take you more seriously." I stood there, the toolbox heavy in my hand, and said nothing. There's a moment in every humiliation where you can feel the ground shift beneath you, where something inside you decides whether to fight or swallow it down. I swallowed. "I'll just fix the light," I said. "That's probably best," his wife said, and then she laughed. A small, bright laugh that stabbed into my chest and stayed there. I walked out of the kitchen, through the hallway, and climbed the small stepladder I'd left on the porch the last time I was here. The light fixture was loose. The wiring was fine. It took me less than 5 minutes to tighten everything and test it. The light came on, steady and bright, and I stood there staring at it, my jaw clenched so tight I thought my teeth might crack. Behind me, I could hear them talking, laughing. "God, he's so predictable," my son said. "Like a trained dog," his wife added. "Comes when you call, does the trick, goes home." More laughter. I climbed down from the ladder, folded it up, and set it against the wall. Then I picked up my toolbox, walked to my truck, and drove home without saying goodbye. That was the moment I decided he didn't deserve the house. The house where I live with my wife is older, smaller, and infinitely more honest than my son's. It's a ranch-style place on the outskirts of town, where the roads turn to gravel and the streetlights are few and far between. The paint is peeling, the gutters need cleaning, but it's paid off, and it's ours. I pulled into the driveway and sat there for a minute, engine idling, staring at the dashboard. My hands were shaking. Not from anger, exactly, from something colder. Something that felt like a decision taking shape in the dark parts of my brain where I usually don't let myself go. My wife was in the living room when I came inside, sitting on the couch with a book open in her lap. She looked up as I walked in, her sharp eyes taking in my face, my posture, the way I was holding my shoulders like I was bracing for a punch. "What happened?" she asked. I set the toolbox down by the door. "Nothing." "Frank?" "It's fine." I sat down beside her, leaned forward, elbows on my knees, and told her everything. The light, the comments, the laughter, the way they talked about me like I was a servant they couldn't be bothered to tip. When I finished, she was quiet for a long time. "You know what the worst part is?" I said. "I paid for that house. $20,000 down. I co-signed the loan. My name is still on the paperwork because he never bothered to refinance." Her eyes narrowed. You're sure about that? I'm sure. So, legally I own half that house. Maybe more. She leaned back, arms crossed, thinking. My wife is the kind of woman who can dismantle a problem like a mechanic stripping an engine. She doesn't get emotional. She gets strategic. What are you going to do? She asked. I don't know yet. Yes, you do. I looked at her. She looked back at me, calm and steady, and I saw the permission there. Not encouragement, exactly. Just acknowledgement. That whatever I was about to do, she wouldn't stop me. Do it clean, she said. No revenge you can't live with. I'll take only what's mine, I said. The rest will fall by itself. She nodded. Good. The next morning, I called in sick to work for the first time in 3 years. I spent the day in my home office, digging through file cabinets and old boxes, looking for the paperwork from the house purchase. It took me 4 hours to find it, buried under tax returns and insurance documents. But when I pulled out the folder, everything was there. The deed, the mortgage agreement, the promissory note. My name was on all of it. My son's name was listed as a co-borrower, but I was the primary. And more importantly, the property title had never been transferred. It was still in my name, solely. I sat there staring at the documents, feeling something cold and sharp settle into place in my chest. He'd lived in that house for 3 years, treating it like it was his kingdom, his castle, his proof that he'd made it in the world, and the whole time it had been mine. I made copies of everything, put the originals in a fireproof safe. Then I started making phone calls. The first call was to a real estate attorney I'd worked with years ago when my wife and I bought our house. His name was Bill Drennan, a quiet man in his 60s who wore cardigans and drank decaf. I explained the situation without emotion, laying out the facts like I was describing a broken transmission. So to be clear, Bill said when I finished, your son is living in a house that you legally own, and he has no idea. Correct. And you want to sell it. Correct. There was a pause. Frank, I have to ask, is this about the money or is this about something else? It's about respect, I said. Understood. Another pause. Give me a day. I'll review the documents and get back to you. Thanks, Bill. I hung up and sat there in the quiet house, listening to the clock tick on the wall. My wife was at work. The neighborhood was empty. I felt like I was standing at the edge of a cliff, and all I had to do was lean forward. The second call came 2 hours later. Bill's voice was brisk, professional. You're in the clear, he said. The house is yours. Your son has no legal claim to it. If you want to sell, you can sell. What about him? What happens to him? That's between you and him, Bill said. But legally he's a tenant at will. You could evict him if you wanted to. I don't want to evict him. Then what do you want? I want him to figure it out on his own. Bill was quiet for a moment. Then he said, You're a cold man, Frank. Only when I need to be. That night, I told my wife what Bill had said. She listened without interrupting, her face unreadable. So you're really going to do this, she said when I finished. Yes. And you're sure? I'm sure. She reached over and took my hand. Her fingers were warm, steady. Then do it, she said. And don't look back. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, running through every possible outcome, every potential consequence. But no matter how many times I turned it over in my mind, I kept coming back to the same conclusion. He didn't deserve the house, and I was going to take it back. As the story unfolds, hit the hype button, like, subscribe, and write in the comments. Would you forgive them or walk away? The next morning, I started making plans. I couldn't just sell the house out from under him without preparation. There were things I needed to know, things I needed to confirm. So I did what any good mechanic does when a machine isn't working right. I started taking it apart piece by piece. First, I needed to know if my son had any legal claims I'd missed. I called Bill again and had him run a title search. It came back clean. My name was the only one on the deed. My son had never filed anything, never tried to transfer ownership, never even bothered to check. He'd just assumed. Second, I needed to know the house's current value. I called a realtor from a neighboring county, a woman named Janet Reeves who specialized in quick sales. I didn't want anyone local. Small towns have long memories and even longer phone trees. Can you come out and do an appraisal? I asked. Of course, Janet said. When's good for you? When's good for you? She laughed. I like your style. How about Thursday afternoon? Thursday works. Third, I needed to figure out how to get into the house without my son or his wife knowing. They both worked during the day, but their schedules were unpredictable. My son worked remotely for some tech startup that sold software nobody needed, and his wife worked part-time at a boutique downtown. I needed to time it perfectly. I spent 2 days watching the house from a distance, parked down the street in my truck with a newspaper and a thermos of coffee. I felt ridiculous, like a private investigator in a bad TV show, but I learned what I needed to learn. My son left the house at 9 in the morning on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, driving to a coffee shop where he worked on his laptop for 3 hours before coming home. His wife left at 10 on Monday and Thursday, and at noon on Tuesday, always gone for at least 4 hours. Thursday was my window. Thursday afternoon came faster than I expected. I drove to the house at 10:30 after my son left and before his wife woke up. I parked 2 streets over and walked the rest of the way, carrying a small duffel bag with tools, paperwork, and a camera. The neighborhood was quiet. A dog barked somewhere. A lawnmower hummed in the distance. I let myself in through the side door, the one that led into the garage. The lock was cheap, and I'd installed it myself 3 years ago. I still had the key. The garage smelled like dust and gasoline. My son's car was gone. The space was cluttered with boxes, bike parts, and lawn equipment he never used. I moved quickly, stepping over the clutter, heading for the door that led into the house. Inside, the house was dim and quiet. The air smelled like vanilla candles and coffee. I stood in the hallway, listening for any sound, any sign that I wasn't alone. Nothing. I moved through the rooms carefully, taking pictures of everything, the furniture, the decor, the walls. I needed documentation in case my son tried to claim I'd stolen anything. I wasn't stealing, I was reclaiming. In the living room, I found a stack of mail on the coffee table, bills mostly. I flipped through them, my stomach tightening with every envelope. Credit card statements, loan payments, a notice from a collections agency. He was drowning in debt. I took pictures of everything and kept moving. In the kitchen, I found more evidence. A grocery receipt for $300, a bottle of wine that cost $60, a receipt from a restaurant I couldn't pronounce, the kind of place where they serve 6 bites of food on a plate the size of a trash can lid. They were living beyond their means, and it was all crashing down around them, and they had no idea. I moved upstairs, checking the bedrooms, the bathrooms, the closets. In the master bedroom, I found his wife's laptop open on the dresser. The screen was asleep, but I tapped the trackpad and it lit up. She was logged into her email. I shouldn't have looked, but I did. The most recent email was from a real estate agent. The subject line read, "Re-listing inquiry." I clicked it. The email was short. The agent was confirming an appointment to discuss listing the house for sale. The appointment was scheduled for next Tuesday. My son and his wife were planning to sell the house, without telling me. I stood there, staring at the screen, feeling something cold and sharp twist in my chest. They were going to sell the house I owned, pocket the money, and cut me out completely. I took a picture of the email, closed the laptop, and left the room. I was halfway down the stairs when I heard the front door open. I froze. Footsteps in the hallway. Light, quick, his wife. "Damn it," she muttered, her voice carrying through the house. "Forgot my stupid jacket." I moved fast, slipping into the laundry room and pressing myself against the wall behind the door. The laundry room was half finished, the walls unfinished drywall, the floor bare concrete. It smelled like mildew and dryer sheets. Her footsteps moved through the house, upstairs, then back down. She was talking on the phone, her voice bright and cheerful. "Yeah, I'm just grabbing it now," she said. "I know, right? When we sell this dump, I'll finally get the kitchen I deserve." She laughed. "I mean, it's not even ours, technically. His dad helped with the down payment, but whatever. He's not going to do anything about it. He's too pathetic." My hands clenched into fists. "Anyway, I'll see you in 20. Bye." The front door opened and closed. Her car started. The sound faded down the street. I waited 5 minutes, then slipped out of the laundry room, out through the garage, and back to my truck. That night, I sat at the kitchen table with my wife and laid out everything I'd learned. The debt, the plans to sell, the email, the phone call. She listened without interrupting, her face calm, her hands folded on the table. "So they're going to screw you," she said when I finished. "Yes." "And you're going to stop them?" "Yes," she nodded. "Good. What's the next step?" "I meet with Janet tomorrow. She'll appraise the house and give me a number. If it's worth what I think it's worth, I list it immediately." "And your son?" "I'll tell him when it's done." She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Don't back down," she said. He made his choice. Now you make yours. Breek Janet Reeves was a sharp woman in her 50s with short red hair and a no-nonsense attitude. She met me at the house Friday morning, clipboard in hand, ready to work. "Nice place," she said as we walked through the rooms. "Needs some updating, but the bones are good." "It's worth something, then?" "Oh, it's worth something." She scribbled notes, took measurements, snapped photos. "Market's hot right now. You'll have offers within a week." "How much are we talking?" She did some quick math on her phone. 350,000, maybe more if you're patient. I let out a slow breath. 3 years ago, the house had been worth 220,000. The market had exploded. "How fast can we move?" I asked. "How fast do you want to move?" "Yesterday." She grinned. "I like you. Let's do it." We were in the basement, Janet inspecting the water heater, when we heard the front door open. I froze. "Someone's home," Janet whispered. "That's impossible," I said. "She's not supposed to be back until 2. "Well, she's back now." We heard footsteps upstairs. Voices. Multiple voices. Laughter. "Oh, God," I muttered. "She brought friends." "What do we do?" Janet hissed. "We stay quiet." We crouched behind the water heater, barely breathing, as the voices moved through the house above us. My daughter-in-law was giving a tour, her voice loud and animated. "And this is the living room. I know it's small, but we're planning to renovate once we sell." Sell. She said it so casually, like it was already done. One of her friends said something I couldn't hear. The footsteps moved closer to the basement door. "Don't open it," I whispered. "What's down there?" one of the friends asked. "Just the basement. It's unfinished. Not worth seeing." "Come on, let's see it." "No, seriously, it's gross." The doorknob turned. I held my breath. The door opened 6 inches, then stopped. "See?" my daughter-in-law said. "Told you, it's just a basement." The door closed. The footsteps moved away. Janet and I stayed frozen for another 5 minutes until we heard the front door close and the voices fade outside. Then we climbed the stairs, slipped out through the garage, and made it to our cars without being seen. "That was insane," Janet said, laughing. "I feel like I just robbed a bank." "You didn't rob anything," I said. "You appraised a house I own." "Right." She got into her car, rolled down the window. "I'll have the paperwork ready by Monday. You sure you want to do this?" "I'm sure." She nodded. "Then let's sell a house." The following week was quiet. Too quiet. My son stopped calling. The angry texts stopped. The voicemails dried up. It was like the world had moved on, leaving me standing in the wreckage of what I'd done, wondering if it had been worth it. I went to work. I fixed things. I came home. I ate dinner. I went to bed. I did it all on autopilot, my mind somewhere else, replaying the last few weeks over and over, looking for the moment where things could have gone differently. But every time I came back to the same conclusion, there was no other way. He'd pushed me too far, and I'd pushed back. On Thursday, I got a call from Bill Drennan. "Frank," he said, "I've got some news. Good or bad? Depends on how you look at it. Tell me. Your son filed a complaint with the county clerk's office. He's claiming you committed fraud." "Fraud?" "He's saying you sold the house under false pretenses, that you misled the buyer, that you—" "Bill," I said, cutting him off, "is any of that true?" "No." "Then what's the problem?" "The problem is he's making noise, and when people make noise, other people listen. What do I need to do?" "Nothing. I'll handle it. But Frank, you need to be prepared for this to get uglier before it gets better. It's already ugly. It can always get uglier." That night, my wife and I sat on the couch, the TV on but muted, the house quiet around us. "Bill called," I said. "And?" "My son filed a fraud complaint." She didn't look surprised. "Of course he did." "Bill says it won't go anywhere." "But it's another layer of stress you don't need." "I can handle it." "I know you can," she said. "But you shouldn't have to." "I brought this on myself." "No," she said firmly. "He brought this on himself. You just responded." I wanted to believe that. I really did. Friday morning, I was at work when my boss called me into his office. I walked in, expecting another repair order, but he didn't hand me a clipboard. He closed the door. "Frank," he said, "we need to talk." "About what?" "About what's going on with your son." I felt my chest tighten. That's personal. I know, but it's affecting your work. How? You've been distracted. You called in sick twice last month. You've been short with the other guys. I've been under stress. I understand that. But this is a workplace, Frank, and I need to know you can do your job. I can do my job. He looked at me for a long moment. I hope so, he said, because I'd hate to lose you. Am I being fired? No, but consider this a warning. Get your head straight. I nodded and left his office. That evening, I sat in the garage, staring at my tools, feeling the weight of everything pressing down on me. The house, my son, the gossip, the judgment, the stress. I'd thought taking back the house would make me feel powerful, vindicated, in control. But all it had done was leave me tired and alone. My wife came out to the garage and sat down on an old stool beside me. You okay? She asked. No. Talk to me. I don't know if I did the right thing, I said. Yes, you do. No, I said. I don't. Maybe I should have just let it go. Maybe I should have. Frank, she said, cutting me off. Stop. You did the right thing. Your son treated you like garbage and you stood up for yourself. That's not wrong. Then why does it feel wrong? Because you're a good person, she said, and good people feel bad even when they do the right thing. I looked at her. What if I'm not a good person? Then I wouldn't have married you. Saturday, I woke up with a plan. I couldn't keep sitting around, letting the guilt and doubt eat at me. I needed to do something, anything. I called Bill Drennan. Frank, he said, what's up? I want to set up a meeting with my son. Why? Because I need to talk to him, face to face. I don't think that's a good idea. I don't care. Can you set it up or not? He sighed. I'll try. But Frank, be careful. He's angry, and anger makes people do stupid things. I know. The meeting was set for Tuesday afternoon at a coffee shop downtown. Neutral ground, public, safe. I got there early, ordered a black coffee, and sat by the window, watching people walk by, wondering if this was a mistake. My son arrived 10 minutes late. He looked terrible, unshaven, dark circles under his eyes, his clothes wrinkled. He saw me, hesitated, then walked over and sat down. Dad, he said, thanks for coming. He didn't say anything. I wanted to talk, I said. To explain. Explain what? How you ruined my life? I didn't ruin your life. I took back what was mine. That house was mine. No, I said. It wasn't. It was never yours. You just lived in it. He shook his head. You don't get it. Then explain it to me. He leaned forward, his voice low and tight. You humiliated me. You made me look like an idiot in front of my wife, my friends, the whole neighborhood. You took everything I had and threw it away like it was nothing. You humiliated me first, I said. What? You treated me like a servant. You mocked me. You laughed at me. You made plans to sell the house I paid for without telling me. And you think I'm the bad guy? He stared at me. That's not how it was. Yes, I said. It was. He stood up. I'm done with you. Sit down. No. Sit down, I said again, my voice harder. He sat. I didn't do this to hurt you, I said. I did this because you left me no choice. You pushed me too far, and now we're both paying the price. So what do you want from me? I want you to understand. Understand what? That actions have consequences. He laughed, bitter and sharp. Is that what this is? A lesson? Yes. He stood up again. Go to hell, Dad. He walked out. I sat there, staring at my coffee, feeling the weight of everything settle back onto my shoulders. I didn't hear from my son for another 2 weeks. No calls, no texts, no angry voicemails. Just silence. The silence was worse than the anger. At work, I kept my head down, focused on the job, tried not to think about anything else. But it was hard. The gossip hadn't died down. People still whispered when I walked by. I could feel their judgment like a weight on my back. At home, my wife tried to keep things normal. She made dinner. She asked about my day. She pretended everything was fine. But I could see the worry in her eyes, the way she watched me when she thought I wasn't looking. One night, she asked me if I'd heard from him. No, I said. Do you think you will? I don't know. Do you want to? I don't know that either. She didn't push. On a cold Monday morning in late October, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I answered it anyway. "Frank?" a woman's voice said. "Yes." "This is Amanda, your son's wife." I didn't say anything. "I need to talk to you," she said. "About what?" "About what you did. I'm not interested in—" "Please," she said, her voice breaking. "Just 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking." I hesitated. Then, "Fine. Where?" "The coffee shop on Main Street. Tomorrow at noon. I'll be there." I showed up at 11:55. Amanda was already there, sitting in the corner, her hands wrapped around a paper cup. She looked different, thinner, tired. The polished, perfect image she'd always projected was gone, replaced by something raw and fragile. I sat down across from her. "Thanks for coming," she said. "What do you want?" "I wanted to apologize." I blinked. "What?" "I'm sorry," she said, "for how I treated you, for the things I said, for laughing at you, for making you feel small." I didn't know what to say. "I know it doesn't change anything," she said, "but I needed to say it." "Why now?" "Because I lost everything," she said. "The house, my friends, my reputation, and I finally understand what you were trying to teach us." "I wasn't trying to teach you anything." "Yes, you were," she said. "You were trying to show us that actions have consequences. And you were right." I leaned back in my chair, studying her face. "Where's my son?" "At his friend's place. We're not together anymore." "What?" "We broke up," she said, "a week ago." "Why?" She looked down at her cup. "Because I found out he'd been lying to me. About a lot of things." "Like what?" "Like the debt, the loans, the credit cards. He took out a personal loan in my name without telling me. I only found out when the collections agency called." I felt something cold twist in my chest. "How much?" $30,000. Jesus. He said it was for the house, for renovations. But he spent it on other things. I don't even know what. I didn't say anything. "I know you probably don't care," she said, "but I thought you should know. He wasn't just lying to you, he was lying to me too." She stood up, leaving her coffee untouched. "I should go." "Amanda," I said. She stopped. "I'm sorry," I said, "for what he did to you." She nodded. "Me too." She walked out, and I sat there alone, staring at the table, trying to process what I'd just heard. My son hadn't just been cruel, he'd been reckless, selfish, a liar. And for the first time, I wondered if I'd been wrong. Not about taking the house, but about thinking he could change. That night, I told my wife what Amanda had said. She listened without interrupting, her face unreadable. "So he screwed her over too," she said when I finished. "Looks like it." "Good. Good?" "Yes," she said, "because now you know it wasn't just about you. He's a bad person, Frank, and bad people hurt everyone around them. He's still my son. That doesn't mean you have to save him. I'm not trying to save him." "Then what are you trying to do?" "I don't know." She reached over and squeezed my hand. "You need to let this go," she said. "You did what you had to do. Now it's time to move on." "I don't know how." "You will," she said. "Give it time." The next day, I got a call from Bill Drennan. "Frank," he said, "the fraud complaint was dismissed." "What?" "Your son dropped it. The clerk's office just called me." "Why?" "I don't know. Maybe he realized he didn't have a case. Maybe he just gave up. Or maybe he's planning something else." "Maybe," Bill said, "but for now, you're in the clear." I hung up and sat there, feeling something I hadn't felt in weeks. Relief. That evening, I was in the garage working on the truck when I heard a car pull into the driveway. I looked up. It was my son. He got out, closed the door, and stood there, hands in his pockets, looking at the ground. I set down my wrench and walked over. "What are you doing here?" I asked. "I need to talk to you." "So talk." He looked up, and I saw something in his eyes I hadn't seen in years. Shame. "I'm sorry," he said. I didn't say anything. "For everything," he said. "For how I treated you. For the things I said. For taking you for granted." "Is this because Amanda told you she talked to me?" "No," he said. "It's because I finally realized what I did." "What did you do?" "I destroyed everything," he said. The house. My marriage. My relationship with you. And it's all my fault. I crossed my arms. So what do you want from me? I don't know, he said. Forgiveness, maybe. I can't give you that. I know. We stood there in the driveway, the air cold and sharp between us, and I felt something I hadn't expected, but pity. You need to figure out who you are, I said, and you need to do it without me. I know. Good. He turned to leave, then stopped. Dad? Yeah? I don't blame you for what you did. I would have done the same thing. He got back in his car and drove away. I stood there, watching his taillights disappear down the street, and I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Peace. November came cold and gray, the kind of month that makes you want to hibernate until spring. The leaves were gone from the trees, the sky was perpetually overcast, and the world felt smaller, quieter, like it was holding its breath. I went back to work, falling into the routine I'd known for 15 years. Fix the air conditioner, replace the light bulb, tighten the loose bolt. Simple mechanical problems with simple mechanical solutions. No drama, no judgment, just work. My boss stopped giving me warning looks. The other guys stopped whispering when I walked by. The gossip had moved on to someone else, some other scandal, some other person to judge and dissect. I was grateful for the anonymity. At home, things were better too. My wife and I fell back into our rhythm, the easy comfort of two people who'd been together long enough to know when to talk and when to stay quiet. She stopped asking if I was okay. I stopped pretending I was fine. We just were. One evening in mid-November, I was sitting on the couch, watching a game I didn't care about, when my phone buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize. I opened it. This is Amanda. I thought you should know. Your son is moving out of state. He got a job in Colorado. He's leaving next week. I stared at the message for a long time, then typed back, "Thanks for letting me know." She didn't respond. I set the phone down and leaned back, staring at the ceiling. Colorado, 1,000 miles away. Far enough that I'd probably never see him again unless one of us made the effort, and I wasn't sure I would. Who was that? My wife asked. Amanda. She says my son is moving to Colorado. How do you feel about that? I don't know. Relieved? Maybe. Sad? Maybe that too. She leaned her head on my shoulder. It's okay to feel both. I know. We sat there in silence, the TV flickering in the background, and I felt something settle in my chest. Not peace, exactly, but something close to it. Acceptance. The next week, I drove past the house one last time. The new owners had already moved in. There was a different car in the driveway, different curtains in the windows, a new welcome mat on the porch. It looked the same, but different, like a place I'd known in a dream that didn't quite match reality. I slowed down, stared at it for a moment, then kept driving. It wasn't my house anymore. It hadn't been for a while. At Thanksgiving, my wife and I ate dinner alone. Just the two of us, a small turkey, mashed potatoes, green beans. No drama, no tension, just quiet, simple gratitude for what we had. Do you miss him? She asked. Sometimes. Do you regret what you did? No. Good. We finished dinner, cleaned up, and spent the rest of the evening on the couch, watching old movies and pretending the world outside didn't exist. It was one of the best Thanksgivings I'd had in years. December arrived with the first snow. Big, fat flakes that covered everything in white, muffling sound, making the world feel softer, quieter, more forgiving. I spent the days before Christmas fixing things around the house. The gutters, the fence, the loose board on the back deck, small projects that kept my hands busy and my mind clear. On Christmas Eve, my wife and I exchanged gifts. I gave her a new set of kitchen knives she'd been wanting. She gave me a leather-bound notebook. What's this for? I asked. For your thoughts, she said. In case you ever want to write them down. I flipped through the empty pages, smooth and clean, waiting to be filled. I don't know if I have anything worth writing. You will, she said. That night, I sat at the kitchen table, the notebook open in front of me, a pen in my hand. I stared at the blank page for a long time, trying to figure out where to start. Finally, I wrote, My son humiliated me in front of his wife, so I sold his house while he was at work. And I don't regret it. I stared at the words, then closed the notebook. Maybe someday I'd write more, but for now, that was enough. New Year's Eve came and went. My wife and I stayed home, drank cheap champagne, and watched the ball drop on TV. When midnight hit, we kissed, and she said, "Here's to new beginnings." To new beginnings, I echoed, and I meant it. In early January, I got a letter in the mail. The return address was from Colorado. I opened it carefully, my hands shaking slightly. Inside was a single sheet of paper with a handwritten note. "Dad, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I know I hurt you, but I want you to know I'm trying to be better. I'm seeing a therapist. I'm working on my debt. I'm starting over. I don't expect you to respond. I just wanted you to know. Take care of yourself. Your son." I read the letter 3 times, then folded it up and put it in a drawer. I didn't respond, but I kept the letter. By late January, the world felt different. The cold had settled in deep, the kind of cold that makes your bones ache and your breath fog in the air, even indoors. But inside, I felt warmer, steadier, like I'd finally found my footing after months of stumbling. Work was good. My boss gave me a small raise. The guys stopped avoiding me. I was just Frank again, the maintenance guy, the one who fixed things quietly and went home. At home, my wife and I had fallen into a new rhythm. We talked more, laughed more, made plans for the future. Small things like repainting the living room or taking a trip to the coast in the spring. Life was simple again, and I was grateful for it. One evening in early February, I was sitting in the garage, working on a project I'd been putting off for months, rebuilding an old clock my father had given me years ago. The mechanism was delicate, intricate, and frustrating, but it kept my hands busy and my mind quiet. My wife came out, wrapped in a thick sweater, carrying 2 mugs of coffee. "You've been out here for hours," she said. "Time flies when you're fighting with a clock." She laughed and handed me a mug. "Any progress?" "Some." She sat down on the stool beside me, watching as I worked. "You seem better," she said. "I am better." "No more second thoughts?" "No more second thoughts." "Good." We sat in comfortable silence for a while. The only sound, the ticking of the clock and the occasional clink of tools. "Frank," she said eventually, "can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Do you think you'll ever talk to him again? Your son?" I set down the screwdriver and thought about it. "I don't know," I said. "Maybe. Someday, but not now." "Fair enough." "Why do you ask?" "Just curious," she said. "I want to make sure you're okay with how things ended." "I'm okay with it," I said. "It wasn't the ending I wanted, but it's the ending I got." She squeezed my shoulder. "I'm proud of you." "For what?" "For standing up for yourself. For not backing down. For being brave enough to do what needed to be done." I looked at her, this woman who'd stood by me through everything, and I felt something warm spread through my chest. "I couldn't have done it without you." "I know," she said, smiling. "That's what I'm here for." On the next day, I got a call from Bill Drennan. "Frank," he said, "I've got some good news." I could use some good news. "The buyer of the house wants to send you a thank you gift. Apparently they love the place. They said it was exactly what they were looking for." "That's nice of them." "They also wanted me to pass along a message. They said to tell you that they can feel the love that went into the house. The care, the attention to detail." I didn't say anything. "Frank, you there?" "Yeah," I said. "I'm here." "You okay?" "Yeah. Just... That's good to hear. I thought you'd appreciate it." We hung up, and I sat there staring at my phone, feeling something I hadn't expected. Validation. That evening, I told my wife about the call. She smiled. "See," she said, "it wasn't just about revenge, it was about respect, and now someone else gets to appreciate what you built." "I didn't build it," I said. "I just helped." "Same thing. Not really. Close enough." Over the next few weeks, I started to notice small changes in myself. I smiled more. I slept better. I stopped checking my phone every 5 minutes, waiting for another angry message that never came. The weight I'd been carrying for months had lifted, and I felt lighter, freer, like I could finally breathe again. At work, I took on new projects, volunteered for extra shifts, threw myself into the job with an energy I hadn't felt in years. My boss noticed. "Whatever you're doing," he said one afternoon, "keep doing it. You're like a new man." "Just trying to move forward," I said. Well, it's working. At home, my wife and I started making plans, real plans. Not just vague ideas about someday, but concrete steps toward the future. We talked about selling our house and buying something smaller, something easier to maintain. We talked about traveling, seeing parts of the country we'd never seen. We talked about hobbies we'd always wanted to try but never had time for. For the first time in years, the future felt open, full of possibility instead of obligation. "I'm excited," my wife said one night. "About what?" "About all of it. About starting over, about figuring out what comes next." "Me too." "Really?" "Really," she smiled. "Good, because I'm not doing it without you. You won't have to." One evening in late February, I was sitting on the couch, flipping through the notebook my wife had given me for Christmas. Most of the pages were still blank, but I'd written a few things here and there. Thoughts, observations, moments I wanted to remember. I turned to a fresh page and started writing. I sold my son's house, or rather, I sold my house, and he happened to be living in it. People called me cruel, bitter, cold, and maybe they were right. But I'd do it again, because I learned something important. Respect isn't given. It's earned. And when someone takes it from you, you have every right to take it back. I paused, then added, "I don't regret what I did, but I do hope he learns from it, not for my sake, for his." I closed the notebook and set it aside. March came with the first signs of spring. The snow melted. The days grew longer. The world started to wake up again. And so did I. The first week of March brought something unexpected. A phone call from my son. I was in the garage, replacing the brake pads on the truck, when my phone rang. I almost didn't answer. The number was his. I'd recognize it anywhere, even though I'd deleted his contact months ago. But something made me pick up. "Hello?" I said. "Dad." His voice was quiet, uncertain. "It's me." "I know." Silence. "I'm calling because I wanted to let you know I'm doing better," he said. "I got the promotion at work. I'm paying off the debt. I'm seeing a therapist twice a week." "That's good." "Yeah." He paused. "I also wanted to say I'm sorry. Again, for everything. I heard you the first time. I know, but I needed to say it again." I set down the wrench and leaned against the truck. "Why are you really calling?" "Because I miss you," he said. "And I know I don't have the right to, but I do." I didn't say anything. "I'm not asking you to forgive me," he said. "I'm just asking you to know that I'm trying." "I appreciate that." "Do you think we'll ever talk again? Like, really talk?" "I don't know," I said. "Maybe, someday." "I'll take maybe." We hung up, and I stood there in the garage, staring at the phone, feeling something I couldn't quite name. Not forgiveness, not anger, something in between. I went back to work on the truck. That evening, I told my wife about the call. She listened, then said, "How do you feel?" "I don't know." "Do you want to forgive him?" "I don't know that either." "That's okay," she said. "You don't have to decide right now." "What if I never decide?" "Then you never decide, and that's okay too." I nodded. "I'm glad I have you." "Me too." Over the next few weeks, I started to notice something strange. The anger I'd been carrying for months was fading. Not gone, but quieter, less sharp. It didn't wake me up at night anymore. It didn't follow me to work. It just was, and I was okay with that. On a warm Saturday in mid-March, I was mowing the lawn when a car pulled up in front of the house. I looked up, shielding my eyes from the sun. It was my son. He got out of the car, looking nervous, his hands in his pockets. "Dad," he said. I turned off the mower. "What are you doing here?" "I was in town. Thought I'd stop by." "You should have called." "I know. I'm sorry." We stood there, 10 feet apart, the lawn half mowed between us. "What do you want?" I asked. "I don't know," he said. "I just wanted to see you." I didn't say anything. "Can we talk?" he asked. "We are talking. I mean, really talk." I thought about it. Then I said, "Come inside." We sat at the kitchen table, 2 cups of coffee between us. My wife was in the other room, giving us space but staying close enough to intervene if things went south. "How have you been?" my son asked. Fine. And Mom? She's fine too. Good. Silence. I've been thinking a lot, he said. About what happened, about what I did. And I realized something. What's that? I was angry at you for years, he said. For not being the dad I wanted. For working all the time. For not being around. And I took it out on you in the worst way possible. I stared at him. I worked all the time to provide for you. I know that now, but I didn't know it then. So what changed? I grew up, he said. Or I started to, at least. I took a sip of coffee, letting his words sink in. I'm not asking you to forgive me, he said. I'm just asking you to understand. I do understand, I said. But understanding doesn't erase what happened. I know. We sat in silence for a while, the clock on the wall ticking loudly in the quiet kitchen. Do you think we'll ever be okay? He asked. I don't know, I said. But I hope so. Me too. He stood up. I should go. Okay. He walked to the door, then turned back. Dad? Yeah? Thank you for not giving up on me completely. I didn't have a choice, I said. You're my son. He nodded, tears in his eyes, and walked out. I sat there at the table, staring at my coffee, feeling something I hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. That evening, my wife asked me how it went. Better than I expected, I said. Good. But we're not there yet. I know. I don't know if we ever will be. That's okay too, she said, as long as you're moving forward. I am. Then that's all that matters. The rest of March passed quietly. My son and I texted occasionally, short messages, nothing deep, but it was something. At work, I got another small raise. My boss said I was one of the most reliable employees he had. I thanked him and went back to work. At home, my wife and I continued making plans. We decided to take a trip to the coast in April. Just the two of us. No distractions, no drama, just time together. Life was good, not perfect, but good. And that was enough. One evening in early April, I was sitting on the back porch, watching the sunset, when my phone buzzed. A text from my son. I'm proud of you, Dad, for standing up for yourself. I know I didn't make it easy, but I'm glad you did. I stared at the message for a long time, then typed back. Thank you. He responded immediately. I love you. I stared at those 3 words, my throat tight, my eyes burning. Then I typed, I love you too. And I meant it. The next morning, I woke up feeling lighter than I had in months. The sun was shining, the birds were singing, the world felt new, my wife was already in the kitchen making breakfast. She smiled when she saw me. Good morning, she said. Good morning. How are you feeling? Good, I said. Really good. I'm glad. We ate breakfast together, talking about nothing and everything, and I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. Later that day, I got a call from Bill Drennan. Frank, he said, I just wanted to let you know that all the paperwork is finalized. The house sale is officially closed. You're free and clear. Thanks, Bill. How are you doing? Better. Good. You deserve it. We hung up, and I sat there, staring at my phone, feeling the weight of everything finally lift off my shoulders. It was over. That evening, I drove to the old house one last time. The new owners were outside, planting flowers in the front yard. They waved when they saw me. I waved back. I sat there for a moment, looking at the house, remembering everything that had happened, the good, the bad, the ugly. Then I drove away, and I didn't look back. April arrived with warm weather and clear skies. My wife and I took our trip to the coast, spending a week walking on the beach, eating fresh seafood, and forgetting about everything else. It was the best week I'd had in years. On the last day of the trip, we sat on the beach watching the waves, and my wife said, I'm proud of you. For what? For everything. For standing up for yourself, for not giving up, for choosing yourself for once. I couldn't have done it without you. I know, she said, smiling, but you still did it. Thank you. For what? For believing in me. She leaned her head on my shoulder. Always. When we got home, there was a letter waiting for me. The return address was from Colorado. I opened it carefully. Inside was a check for $20,000 and a note. Dad, this is the money you put down on the house. I know it's late. I know it doesn't fix everything, but I wanted you to have it back. I'm trying to make things right, one step at a time. Love, your son. I stared at the check for a long time, then folded it up and put it in my wallet. I didn't need the money, but I appreciated the gesture. That night, my wife and I sat on the couch, the TV off, the house quiet. What are you thinking about? She asked. Nothing, I said. And everything. That's deep, I laughed. I'm just thinking about how far we've come, how much has changed. Do you regret any of it? No. Good. Do you? Not for a second. We sat there in comfortable silence, and I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Contentment. The next morning, I went to work. Fixed an air conditioner, replaced a light bulb, tightened a loose bolt. Simple mechanical problems with simple mechanical solutions. And for the first time in months, I felt like myself again. That evening, I got a text from my son. Did you get the check? Yes. Are you mad? No, thank you. I'm trying, Dad. I know. Keep trying. I will. Though over the next few weeks, my son and I continued to text. Short messages, nothing deep, but it was progress, and progress was enough. On a warm evening in late April, I was sitting in the garage working on the old clock when my wife came out. It's almost done, I said, gesturing to the clock. How long have you been working on that? Months. Is it worth it? Yes. She smiled. Good. She sat down beside me and we worked together in comfortable silence, the clock ticking softly in the background. And for the first time in a long time, I felt complete. The clock was finished by early May. I wound it up, set the time, and hung it on the wall in the living room. It ticked steadily, reliably, keeping perfect time. My wife stood beside me, admiring it. It's beautiful, she said. Thanks. Your dad would be proud. I hope so. We stood there listening to the clock tick, and I felt something settle deep in my chest. Peace. That night, I opened the notebook my wife had given me for Christmas. I turned to a fresh page and wrote, I sold my son's house. I stood up for myself. I did what I had to do, and I don't regret it. Not even a little, because I learned that respect isn't given. It's earned, and when someone takes it from you, you have every right to take it back. I paused, then added, and maybe, just maybe, we'll find our way back to each other. But if we don't, I'll be okay, because I finally chose myself. And that was the bravest thing I've ever done. I closed the notebook and set it aside. The next morning, I woke up early and went for a walk. The sun was just coming up, the sky streaked with pink and orange, the world quiet and still. I walked through the neighborhood, past houses I'd known for years, past people I'd waved to 1,000 times, and I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Freedom. When I got home, my wife was in the kitchen making breakfast. Good morning, she said. Good morning. How was your walk? Good. Just good? Great, I said. It was great. She smiled. I'm glad. We ate breakfast together, talking about our plans for the day, for the week, for the rest of our lives. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like everything was going to be okay. On a beautiful Saturday in mid-May, I got a call from my son. Dad, he said, I'm coming to town next week. Can I see you? Yes? Really? Really. Thank you. You're welcome. We made plans to meet for dinner. Nothing fancy. Just a quiet restaurant where we could talk. I hung up and told my wife. How do you feel? She asked. Nervous. That's normal. I know. It's going to be okay. I hope so. It will be, she said, because you're ready. And she was right. I was ready. The day of the dinner arrived faster than I expected. I got dressed in my best shirt, combed my hair, and drove to the restaurant. My son was already there, sitting at a table by the window. He stood up when he saw me. "Dad," he said. "Hey." We shook hands, awkward at first, then sat down. "Thanks for meeting me," he said. "Of course." We ordered food, made small talk, and slowly the tension began to ease. We talked about his job, his life in Colorado, his therapy sessions. He talked about the mistakes he'd made, the things he'd learned, the person he was trying to become. And I listened, really listened. By the end of the dinner, we were both smiling. "I'm glad we did this," he said. "Me too." "Can we do it again?" "Yes." "Really?" "Really." He looked relieved. "Thank you, Dad, for giving me another chance." "You're my son," I said. "I'll always give you another chance." We hugged in the parking lot, and for the first time in months, it felt real. I drove home feeling lighter than I had in years. My wife was waiting for me on the couch. "How did it go?" she asked. "Good," I said. "Really good." "I'm glad." I sat down beside her, and she leaned her head on my shoulder. "We're going to be okay," I said. "I know." And we were. So weeks turned into months. My son and I talked regularly, not every day, but enough. We were rebuilding slowly, carefully, one conversation at a time. At work, I got promoted to senior maintenance technician. It came with a small pay raise and a lot more responsibility. I accepted it gratefully. At home, my wife and I continued making plans. We repainted the living room. We planted a garden. We talked about the future with excitement instead of dread. Life was good. Really good. On a warm evening in late June, I was sitting on the back porch, watching the fireflies dance in the yard, when my wife came out and sat beside me. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "Nothing," I said. "And everything." "Still deep, I see." I laughed. "I'm just thinking about how far we've come, how much has changed." "Are you happy?" "Yes." "Good." She took my hand. "Because you deserve to be. So do you." "I know." We sat there in comfortable silence, watching the fireflies, and I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Complete peace. That night, I opened the notebook one last time and wrote. I did what I had to do, I stood up for myself, I took back what was mine, and in the process, I found myself again. It wasn't easy, it wasn't pretty, but it was necessary. And I'd do it again in a heartbeat, because I learned that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is choose yourself, even when it hurts, even when it's hard, even when everyone is watching, you choose yourself, and you don't apologize for it. I closed the notebook and set it aside for the last time. The next morning, I woke up early, made coffee, and sat on the back porch, watching the sun rise. The world was quiet, peaceful, full of possibility, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. Later that day, the phone rang. It was my son. "Hey, Dad," he said. "Hey. I just wanted to call and say thank you." "For what?" "For not giving up on me. For showing me what it means to stand up for yourself. For teaching me that actions have consequences." "You're welcome." "I love you, Dad." "I love you too." We hung up, and I sat there, staring at the phone, feeling something warm spread through my chest. And then I heard a car pull into the driveway. I looked up. It was my son. He got out, carrying 2 boxes. "Surprise," he said. I drove down for the weekend. Thought we could spend some time together. I stood up, my heart pounding. "You came all this way?" "Of course," he said. "You're my dad." We stood there in the driveway, father and son, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Hope, a real, genuine hope. But then I noticed something. His wife got out of the passenger seat, and she was carrying a folder, a thick folder with legal documents. My stomach dropped. "What's that?" I asked. My son set down the boxes and looked at his wife. She walked over, her face serious. "Frank," she said, "we need to talk." "About what?" "About the house." My chest tightened. "What about it?" "We've been working with a lawyer," my son said, "and we found something." "Found what?" "A clause in the original mortgage agreement," his wife said, "one that states if the co-borrower makes payments for more than 3 years, they gain partial equity in the property." I stared at them. That's not possible. It is, she said, opening the folder and showing me the documents. And we have proof that your son made payments for 3 years and 2 months. I looked at the papers, my hands shaking. There it was, in black and white. The clause, the proof, the payments. What are you saying? I asked. I'm saying you owed him half the proceeds from the sale, she said. And we're suing you for it. The world tilted. You can't be serious. We're very serious, my son said. You took everything from me, Dad. Now I'm taking it back. I stood there, unable to speak, unable to move, as they got back in the car and drove away. My wife came out, her face pale. What just happened? She asked. They're suing me, I said, for half the money from the house. Can they do that? I don't know. We stood there in the driveway, the sun shining down on us, and I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Fear. The next morning, I called Bill Drennan. Frank, he said, I heard. You heard? Your son's lawyer contacted me yesterday. They're moving forward with the lawsuit. Can they win? I don't know, Bill said. I need to review the clause. But Frank, if it's legitimate, you could be in serious trouble. How serious? You could owe him $200,000, plus legal fees. I felt my legs go weak. What do I do? You fight, Bill said. You fight with everything you've got. Over the next few weeks, I met with Bill, reviewed the documents, and prepared for the legal battle ahead. My son was relentless. His wife was ruthless, and they were getting it. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I spent every waking moment thinking about the lawsuit, the clause, the money I might lose. My wife stood by me, but I could see the worry in her eyes. We'll get through this, she said. Will we? We have to. The court date was set for late August. I spent the summer preparing, gathering evidence, trying to prove that the clause didn't apply, that my son's payments weren't enough, that I'd done nothing wrong. But deep down, I knew the truth. I might lose. On the day of the hearing, I sat in the courtroom, my hands sweating, my heart pounding. My son sat across the aisle with his wife and their lawyer. He didn't look at me. The judge reviewed the documents, listened to the arguments, and made his ruling. I find in favor of the plaintiff, he said. Mr. Frank owes his son $175,000, plus court costs and legal fees. The gavel came down, and my world shattered. I walked out of the courtroom in a daze. My wife was crying, Bill was apologizing, and my son was smiling. He'd won, and I'd lost everything. That night, I sat in the garage, staring at the tools I'd used to build a life, to fix things, to make the world work, and I realized something. I'd been wrong, not about standing up for myself, but about thinking I could win. Because in the end, revenge always comes back around, and this time, it had come for me. The next morning, my son called. Dad, he said, I just wanted to let you know there are no hard feelings. I didn't say anything. You taught me a valuable lesson, he said. Actions have consequences, and now you're learning the same lesson. He hung up. I sat there, the phone still in my hand, and I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Defeat, complete, total defeat. But then I remembered something, a conversation with my wife months ago when this all started. Do it clean, she'd said. No revenge you can't live with. And I realized something else. I could live with this, because at least I'd tried. At least I'd stood up. At least I'd fought. And sometimes that's all you can do. So I got up, walked inside, and found my wife in the kitchen. We're going to be okay, I said. She looked at me, tears in her eyes. Are we? Yes. How? Because we always are. She hugged me, and we stood there in the quiet kitchen, holding each other, and I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Peace, not the peace of winning, but the peace of knowing I'd done everything I could, and that was enough. That evening, I wrote one final entry in the notebook. I sold my son's house. He sued me, and he won. But I don't regret what I did, because I stood up for myself. I chose myself. And even though I lost, I know I did the right thing. Because sometimes the bravest thing you can do is fight. even when you know you might lose. You fight anyway, and you don't apologize for it. I closed the notebook and set it aside. The next morning, I went to work, fixed an air conditioner, replaced a light bulb, tightened a loose bolt, and life went on. Because that's what it does. It goes on, no matter what.